So we can start the session. Meanwhile, remaining participants will join. Before starting the session, I request each members to please share for our ICI song.
येष सुप्तेषु जागृति येष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शितः सर्वे तदूनाच्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
Good morning, everyone. On behalf, I'll welcome everyone for our today's seminar on recent amendments in GST and landmark rulings. On behalf of Andheri West Study Circle, I welcome our today's speaker, CA Jignesh Kansara.
Thank you, Gaurang bhai.
Good morning, sir. It is, you have been associated with our study circle from quite a long time, and you have been a speaker at our study circle. It's always good to hear from you on the GST. Sir, I will give a brief introduction about the sir. Jignesh sir is a member of ICAI and has delivered more than 150 seminars on various topics, various issues in GST across India as an IDTC approved faculty on GST. He is a member of Indirect Tax Committee of AWSC for financial year 18-19, 19-20, 20-21. And for the same year, he's also been a member of Indirect Tax Committee of the BCA, that is our Bombay Chartered Account Society. He is also been a member of Law and Representation Committee of GST PAM, that is Goods and Service Tax Practitioner Associations of Maharashtra for the financial year 2021. He has very recently published book titled GST Law, Procedure and Practice, published by GST PM. He is also a visiting faculty at NACI, that is National Academy of Custom, Indirect Tax and Narcotics, Central Government Training Institute for training officers belonging to the centers. He is a founder member of CGPI, that is Confederation of GST Professionals and Industries. On behalf of studies, our Andheri West Study Circle, I welcome you again, sir. You can please start your deliberation.
Thank you, Gaurang bhai. In fact, I should thank you for giving me opportunity to go through all these amendments. Friends, recently on 17th September, there was a GST Council meeting. Am I audible, Gaurang?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there was a GST Council meeting. And in recent past, I have not seen such a hectic GST Council meeting. We have as good as 70 points to discuss. If you see in last 1.5 years, all these meetings were more of a, more of an adjournment meeting. Some extensions were given, some extensions were removed. It was like that only. No actual business were being done because of COVID-19. In this meeting, there was some actual business. Some might be against taxpayer, some might be against, maybe favoring taxpayer, but there was actual business. So let us go through one by one all these points. I will try to cover background as well as foreground of these amendments. And one special request, if you wish to share anything on this topic, please don't restrict yourself. let this session be a mutual learning process for me also. So with this, let me start with my session. I will share my screen. Gaurang bhai, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I will start with some lighter topic, and then we will go on to discuss some difficult, amendments. So like income tax now, Aadhaar authentication is very much compulsory for GST also. In fact, many of our friends and colleagues might have done Aadhaar authentication on portal, but there was no legal rule for this. We have been doing it, but there was no legal rule for registered person. For new registration, there was a rule. For registered person, there was no rule. Now in this meeting, rules have been notified. So now this rule says that Aadhaar authentication is compulsory for registered person in these three situations. Situation one, if your client registration is cancelled, and if you want to apply for revocation, then make sure Aadhaar is already authenticated. If your client intends to apply for refund, whether under Rule 89 or 96, it means ITC refund or IGST paid refund, Aadhaar authentication is compulsory. However, this rule is part of statute as of now, but effect will be notified from future date. So as of now, this is not notified. Now question may arise, अगर Aadhaar authentication करना है तो कैसे करेंगे? So in case of proprietorship firm, you will have to authenticate Aadhaar of proprietor. For partnership firm, any partner. For HUF, Karta. For company, it is either MD or whole-time director. For AOP, BOI, society, any member. For trust and NGO, any trustee. So I guess it is more or less on the line of income tax. Now, third question, what if Aadhaar is not available? So rule says, if Aadhaar is not available, then we are supposed to carry out eKYC. For eKYC, I need to have Aadhaar enrollment ID slip. So Aadhaar apply to karna padega. I need to have enrollment ID. And then I need to have any one document like bank passbook with photograph, or voter ID card, or passport, or driving license. With these two documents, I can carry out eKYC. There is a rider here. Even if eKYC is done, within 30 days from getting Aadhaar, you are required to once again carry out Aadhaar authentication. So now whether Aadhaar authentication is mandatory for everyone? Answer is no. There are few exceptions. So person who is not a citizen of India, he will obviously not get Aadhaar. So he cannot carry out Aadhaar authentication. Then all this government undertaking, statutory bodies, local authorities, Department of Central Government, State Government, they have been exempted from Aadhaar authentication. There is one more exemption. This consulate, foreign embassy, they get something called UIN instead of GSTN. So this UIN holder are not supposed to carry out Aadhaar authentication. So this was regarding Aadhaar. Now friends, it seems that department intends to carry out, intensive KYC mechanism. Their intention is very clear. They want to find out who are their taxpayers and what are their other details. In this process, there is one more requirement now. From beginning, we were asked to link bank account of taxpayer. We have been doing it from beginning. Now, if you are taking new registration, you are not supposed to give details of new bank account immediately, but within 45 days, you are supposed to link your bank account. Otherwise, they cancel their registration number. So far, so good. Now, some amendments have been carried out. This amendment is more of a cautious nature. Out of abundant precaution, these amendments are carried out. This amendment says that you need to give bank account details of registered person only. Obviously, we cannot give details of any other person, but rule says you need to give bank account details of such registered person, and it should also be linked with his PAN. So this bank account number should also be linked with PAN. Further, if your taxpayer is individual, then even Aadhaar should be linked with PAN. So your GST, PAN number, Aadhaar number, bank account details, everything will be synchronized. More or less, department want to find out, who are the taxpayers? Are there any black sheep in this process? So for this, department is carrying out this exercise. One more changes they have brought. When we apply for GST refund, we are required to select bank account details. And in that bank account only, we get bank refund, our GST refund. Now there is one more restriction here. Such bank account should be linked with PAN. If it is not linked with PAN, then department will not grant refund to that account. So again, intention is very clear. Department want to, catch hold of fraudulent activities, and that's why all this process are being carried out. I don't think we have anything to comment on this. Point number 7. Now, this is the actual business. ITC 04. Friends, let me tell you what is ITC 04 first. If your client is carrying out job work activity, is sending his goods for job work process to job worker, then he is required to file a return called ITC 04. Now, what is this ITC 04? It is nothing but details of job work movement. So whenever I am sending my goods to job worker, I will have to give details. Whenever those goods are brought back, again, I will have to give details. Let me tell you honestly, very few people are filing ITC 04. Earlier, there was issue with ITC 04, but now this issue is more or less resolved. But still, people are not filing. Some exemptions have been given up to 2019, and from 2019 onwards, April 2019 onwards, it is compulsory, but many people are not doing. We don't know what stand department will take in future. Department may say, or they may at least create dispute as far as job work is concerned. So it is advisable to file ITC 04. Now, some concessions have been given. Since beginning, ITC 04 was required to be filed quarterly, and due date was 25th day from end of quarter. Now, government has realized that either there is less compliance or government on its own want to, give some concession. That's why this time limit has been increased. So if a taxpayer is a small taxpayer, by small I mean his annual aggregate turnover of preceding year is less than 5 crore or up to 5 crore, then he is required to file yearly ITC 04 instead of quarterly. And if your taxpayer is a big taxpayer, more than 5 crore, then instead of quarterly, taxpayer is required to file half yearly ITC 04. Due date remains same as of now. So this means if somebody has not filed ITC 04 for April to June, he can file for entire 6 months or 12 months as the case may be. Moving on to next agenda. As of now, there are restrictions on filing GSTR1. So what was used to happen earlier? People were filing only GSTR1 and they were not filing GSTR3B. And reason was simple, because in GSTR3B, they were required to pay tax. In GSTR1, they were filing, otherwise their recipient will come to know that they are not filing GST returns and they may withhold payment of such supplier. So in last year, Rule 59(6) was amended. And as per this rule, right now, if I'm a monthly filer, and I have committed default in filing two GSTR 3B, then I cannot file my GSTR 1 henceforth unless my default reduced to one GSTR 3B. So I can play with system for 2 months, not beyond that. If taxpayer is quarterly filer, then he can play with system only for a quarter, not beyond that. Now, with effect from 1st January 2022, that is from next calendar year, if your taxpayer is a monthly filer and he has not filed a single 3B, then he cannot file his next GSTR1. So this is as good as online real-time compliance. एक भी डिले हो गया आपका 3B का, तो आपका नेक्स्ट GSTR1 जाएगा नहीं जब तक आप प्रीवियस 3B को अपलोड नहीं करो. This is a major change. Now, friends, post this GST Council meeting, many notifications were issued, but this time we have seen plethora of circulars also. Many clarifications were given. So first clarification in this regard pertains to tax collected under wrong head and paid under wrong head. So assume I have sold goods to Gaurang Bhai. Gaurang Bhai and my organization both are in Maharashtra. So I was supposed to charge CGST and SGST. But erroneously, what had happened? I have charged IGST. Gaurang Bhai has paid me IGST, and I have also paid this amount to government. I have not kept anything with me. This is called collection and payment of wrong type of tax. Now, subsequently, during audit process or annual return process, I got to know that I have done something wrong. It is quite possible that I may come to know about this error 3-4 years down the line, not right now. Now, if you see in GST, if you want to apply for refund, you have to apply within a period of 2 years from relevant date. So in this situation, unless we have some concession, relevant date will be 2 years from date of payment of tax. Now in this case, I got to know about error 3 years down the line. So my liability to pay correct type of tax is there, but will I get refund of wrong tax which I have paid to government? There is a confusion. So government has said very clearly that in such situation, if you pay correct type of tax, then you can claim refund of wrongly paid tax. And time limit would be linked to date of payment of correct tax. I will show you example. And for old matters, time limit is 2 years from 24th September 2021. Why 24th September? Because this rule has been inserted with effect from 24th September 2021. So take a case. I have paid wrong tax on 10th May 2021. Before this notification came into effect. In that situation, I will have 2 years from September 24, 2021. So I can apply for refund till 23rd September 2023. Take another case. I have paid wrong tax somewhere in past, and I have paid correct tax on 9th October 2021. That is yesterday I have paid right tax. Now, since payment of correct tax has been made after 24th September 2021, I will have 2 years from date of correct payment of tax. So I can apply for refund till 8th October 2023. So this is beneficial clarification. One more clarification. Now you know that if taxpayers aggregate turnover of any preceding year is more than 50 crores, such taxpayer is required to generate e-invoice. So doubt was raised that in such case, whether transporter is required to carry physical invoice along with e-bill, because many officers were insisting on physical copy of invoice. So it has been clarified that if e-invoice has been generated, then QR code available on this e-invoice itself is capable of, getting all details. And in such situation, transporter need not carry physical copy of invoice. Again, a welcome clarification. Now, friend, I'm going to touch upon one of the most difficult topic of GST as well as service tax, called intermediary. Issue supply of intermediary is another dispute. Right now, matter is on with Bombay High Court. Even our judges have different view on this matter. Whether place of supply will be within the India, outside India, it's a different dispute. And matter is with third member bench right now. So let us not touch upon that. Let us understand meaning of intermediary. So this definition is there in front of you. An intermediary means a broker, agent, or any other person by whatever name called. So you can call it with any other name, who arranges or facilitates supply of goods or service or both or securities. So goods, service, securities are neither goods nor service, still securities are included here, between two or more persons, but does not include a person who supplies such goods or service or both or securities on his own account. This is the definition. Now, friends, if you see this definition, first of all, it is restrictive definition. It says means, and then it also excludes certain portion. Fine. But department were reading this in a very expansive manner. Department was reading only this line, who arranges or facilitates supply of goods or service or both. Now, if I just read this line, then with due respect, a chartered accountant appearing before GST authority in GST assessment is also intermediary. But that was never the intention of law. And we can't read, or we can't pick and choose. We have to read definition as a whole. If you see, first part says intermediary means broker, agent, or any other person which is similar or akin to broker or agent. Chartered accountant is not broker or agent. Advocate is not broker or agent. So there is a confusion. So now some clarification has been given. First clarification says, if there is intermediary, it means there will be presence of minimum 3 parties. Of course, there will be supplier, there will be recipient, and intermediary who is arranging or facilitating supply. So no dispute on this. I think it is a proper clarification. Then circular says there will be minimum 2 distinct supplies. Again, a right view, because one supply will be main supply of either goods or service, and there will be ancillary supply of brokerage or commissioning or intermediary. So of course there will be 2 supply, no issue here. Third clarification, intermediary service provider to have character of an agent, broker, or any other similar person. The word similar is important. So that guy should be acting like a broker, agent, something like that. Fourth clarification, intermediary does not include a person who supplies such goods or service or both on his own account. That's what definition even says, that if you are doing on a principal to principal basis, it means you are not an agent. That is what contract, this is what Indian Contract Act also says, that agent and principal are different. This is again a very good clarification. Subcontracting is not a service, is not intermediary service. So if I have got a big audit, And if I subcontract portion of that audit to another chartered accountant, then it is not intermediary service. Fifth clarification reads, fact and circumstances will decide whether transaction will fall within the four corners of intermediary or not. So there is no straitjacket formula. Every case will have to be considered on its own and decide whether it is intermediary or not. This is what has been told in circular. And some illustration are also given. So I will now touch upon such illustration. So A is a manufacturer, B is a buyer. Now C is helping manufacturer in identifying buyer. कि भाई C ढूंढ के ला रहा है कि आपके प्रोडक्ट का बायर कौन हो सकता है. And for that he is raising invoice on A. There is nothing but commission agent service, correct? He's finding buyers for you. And of course, such service will fall within the definition of intermediary. Is a broker, so to say. Illustration number 2. A is a software company. They are engaged in designing software. B is an actual client who needs service of software company. So A has entered into contract with B to design a customized software. Now what A has done, A has outsourced certain portion of work to another programmer, say C. So C will design particular module. Out of 100 modules, say one will be designed by C. So for designing that module, C will speak directly with client. She will understand what are the requirements of client and accordingly develop the module. Now in this process, whether C is the intermediary, answer is no. Answer is no. C is not rendering any service to B. C is rendering service to whom? A, because contract is between A and C. Correct? And here, C is not connecting two person. C is providing service directly to A. It is different matter that B is beneficiary, but C is not connecting A and B, and that's why C is not a intermediary. Third illustration. So assume P is an insurance company from, say, America. Now this insurance company needs somebody who can process their insurance claim. So P has approached somebody called R. R is like aggregator in India, and placed a request saying that you get me a person who can process insurance claim for me. Now there is a guy called Q. Q is in this business. He knows how to process insurance claim. So R has connected Q with P. And for rendering this service, R has raised invoice on P. In this situation, whether R is an intermediary, whether Q is an intermediary, answer is yes. What Q is doing? Q is connecting two people, P and R. Q is not giving any service as such other than intermediary service. Q is connecting two person, P and R, and that's why Q is intermediary in this case. A fourth example. Assume there is a company called A. It's a USA based company manufacturing computers. Now this company is supplying computers worldwide. There is a company called B, which is an Indian BPO. Now A is entered into contract with B for customer care service. So whatever small problem this ultimate user face, they will make a call to Indian BPO, and BPO will try to process their queries. Please appreciate, we will speak directly to customers. In this situation, first of all, we need to find out whether B is rendering service to A or B is rendering service to ultimate customer. Answer will be B is rendering services to A, because there is a contractual understanding between A and B, and ultimate customer are the beneficiary. B will of course raise his invoice only on A and not on customers. Now question arises whether B is intermediary. Similar example was given even in 2012 in Indian Service Tax Education Guide. And it says that B is providing main service of customer care. B is not providing any intermediary service between A and its customer, and therefore B is not intermediary. A very good clarification. If you see in Maharashtra, there was an adverse advance ruling, and that adverse ruling was even confirmed by appellate authority in We Serve Global 2 years ago. And in this ruling, it was held that all back office and accounting support service is an intermediary service, or too far-fetched, ruling. How can back office be an intermediary service? After this ruling, at least in Maharashtra, many refund application of KPO, BPO, IT, ITS service were rejected, saying you are doing intermediary service. For intermediary service, place of supply will be within India. That's why it is not an export, no refund. Since then, many issues were raised. And now this circular has clarified that all such back office accounting support services may not be intermediary. We'll have to see intermediary from the lens of all these five conditions. And we have to ascertain whether transaction in question is an intermediary or not an intermediary. So in a way, this is a very good clarification, but I would say insufficient clarification. This has touched upon only few areas. Now take a case. I'm an Indian person, Indian citizen, and I'm carrying out some survey for foreign client. That foreign company wants to enter India. They have not made up their mind whether they will ever come to India or not. So they want to launch their product, and for that I'm carrying out some survey. Am I intermediary? Circular is silent. There are some marketing activities which we call exploratory marketing activity. It has got no linkage with my sales. जरूरत नहीं है कि हर एक मार्केटिंग से सेल्स आएगा. So if I am getting into such explorative marketing activities, am I correct in 2%? Answer is no, because there is no second person only. We don't know whether in future there will be customer or not a customer. So whether such service will fall within the definition of intermediary, circular is silent. And there are adverse advance ruling on this. But our understanding says all this cannot fall within the definition of intermediary, because definition is very clear. It says, it starts with word means. And then it says we need to connect to 2 or more persons. And third, nature of activity should be like broker, agent, or any other person. So again, we expect some more circular on this issue, but intermediary as such is a difficult proposition. One more clarification on debit note. So friends, as far as credit note is concerned, there's a time limit in GST law. That credit note has to be raised by September of next financial year. But there is no time limit as far as debit note is concerned. And answer is very simple. Because debit note increase revenue of the government. So obviously government will not put any restriction on raising of debit note. There is no issue as far as time limit is concerned. There's a different issue here. What about ITC? Whether ITC on debit note will be, or is whether it is linked to main invoice, or we have to see from the lens of debit note itself. That was a question. So if you see 16.4 in its original avatar, it was very clear that even for claiming ITC on debit note, we were supposed to link it with original invoice date. And we have time limit for claiming ITC on invoices, that is September of next financial year. After that, we cannot claim. So earlier there was understanding that even for debit note, we have to claim ITC within the time limit linked to date of original invoice. Now, from 1st January 2021, debit note is delinked from invoice date. So if you can see here, this 3 words, invoice relating to, has been removed from section 16.4. And so view emerge that now debit note and invoice are separate, and accordingly we will have to determine ITC eligibility independently. Even after this amendment, there was an adverse advance ruling saying that whatever happens in 16.4, these amendments, they have disregarded and said, no, even after amendment, if you want to claim ITC on debit note, you will have to claim within the time limit of original invoice. So that was a very confusing advance ruling. To take care of this advance ruling, we have now clarification. This clarification says that in case of debit note, date of issuance of debit note alone shall determine the relevant financial year for the purpose of 16.4. So now date of underlying invoice has no relevance. Further, it says for availment of ITC on or after 1/1/2021, that is after amendment, the eligibility for availment of ITC will be governed by amended provision, because amendment is already notified from 1/1/2021. So now what does this mean? Let us take illustration. Original invoice date 16th March 2021. Debit note 7th July 2021. If I consider original date of invoice, then my due date for claiming ITC will be September 2021. But if I treat debit note as the relevant date, then I can claim ITC up to September 2022. So circular very clearly says that after amendment, in this situation, you can claim ITC up to September 2022. This illustration is very much important. Date of invoice 15/7/2019, prior to amendment. Date of debit note 10/11/2020, prior to amendment. Then what will be outer limit to claim ITC? Is it linked to invoice or debit note? So if you are claiming ITC now, relevant date will be 10th November 2020. Accordingly, on such debit note, we can still claim ITC in 3B of September 2021. So this is again a very good clarification. I will touch upon press release. This amendments will take some time, but clarification is very much important. So when GST was introduced, department was saying that taxpayer were required to pay tax on gross liability. So assume my tax liability was 100, my ITC was 99, but I have not filed return in time. So department says you have not filed return, you have not claimed ITC, pay interest on ₹100. Now this was not digestible. Matter went to many high courts, and high court has said nothing doing. ITC is also a type of payment. So tax is payable only on net amount payable. Interest is payable only on net amount payable. This was the position even in Senate credit rules. But somehow in their wisdom, GST authorities were saying that you pay on gross amount. Thereafter, last year, law was amended prospectively. Again, UN cry was raised. Then they amended law retrospectively from 1st July 2017. That is from beginning, saying that interest is payable only on net liability. So far, so good. Now consider an example. It is in front of your screen now. That I am filing GSTR 3B. While filing 3B, instead of 1 lakh rupee, I have written ITC as 10 lakh rupees. Manual error, punching error. 10 लाख ITC ले लिया मैंने और मेरे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रेजिस्टर में आ गया. So there is a wrong availment of ITC to the extent of 9 lakh rupees. Out of this 9 lakh rupees, erroneously I have consumed 4 lakh rupees. And 5 lakh rupees is still lying in my electronic credit ledger. As far as 4 lakh is concerned, there is no dispute. I have wrongly availed, wrongly consumed. I am required to pay interest. There is no dispute. Dispute is with regard to 5 lakh rupees, which was wrongly availed, but never utilized. Am I supposed to pay interest? Authorities were saying, yes, pay interest, because section 73, 74 were worded in a different manner. Now, council has clarified that interest liability for wrong availment of ITC can arise only if such wrong ITC is availed as well as utilized. If it is not utilized, no need to pay any interest. That's why on this 5 lakh rupees, no interest, but interest will be payable on 4 lakh rupees. Now, what will be the rate of interest? If you see 50 subsection 3, it gives an impression that we were supposed to pay interest of 2% per month. A very huge interest. Sales चोरी किया तो 1.5% भरने का, ITC चोरी किया तो 2% भरने का. But both are crime. So now council has said that interest will be payable at a rate of 1.5% per month, again from beginning. जिसने ज्यादा भर दिया उसको रिफंड नहीं मिलेगा. Don't worry, इंडिया में रिफंड नहीं मिलता. But अगर नहीं भरा है तो you will be asked to pay interest at the rate of 1.5%. Amendment कब आएगा? 1 साल के पहले तो नहीं आएगा. बजट में आएगा, बजट के बाद ही नोटिफाई होगा. But again, a good clarification. I am referring to one circular on export of service. Now, a simple law, however authority can make it complicated, it's a glaring example. Just pay attention to this diagram, this pictogram, and see there's a company called ACS India Limited. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of ACS LLC US. So parent company is in US, subsidiary company is in India. Now subsidiary company is rendering service to holding company. And all these other conditions of export of service like remittance, etc. is fulfilled. There is no dispute as far as remittance or resource supply is concerned. Now question arises whether this service is export of service or not. So authorities were saying, look, who is providing service? ACS India. Who is getting service? ACS LLC. Both are one and the same. Holding subsidiary relationship hai. तो हम दोनों एक ही है हमारे लिए. Why should we treat this as export of service? That was a dispute. So authorities were taking a view that establishment of person in India and another establishment of that person outside India are establishment of distinct person. And if it is establishment of distinct person, then conditions of export of service are not fulfilled and so will not give you a refund. This was the argument. There was, of course, favorable judgment in service tax, but GST authorities were raising this dispute. So now what clarification it has been given? It has been clarified that company incorporated in India and foreign company incorporated outside India are separate person under the provision of GST law. It is very much obvious. Both are separate. And accordingly, they are separate entity and they are not an establishment of distinct person. तो कोई branch नहीं है. ये दोनों अलग-अलग individual company है. TCS India can very well render service to TCS UK. ऐसा होता ही है. इंडिया में तो सब चीज आउटसोर्स की जा रही है. सब यहाँ हो रहा है काम, and then we are rendering service to our holding company abroad. How can you say it is not an export of service? So now this clarification has been given. So in this example, if ACS India is rendering service to ACS LLC, it is not an establishment of distinct person. Subject to fulfillment of other conditions, it can be classified as export of service. Take another illustration. Holding company or head office is in US. In India, we have something called branch or liaison office or representative office or agency. Now, if this ACS India is rendering service to ACS LLC, is it export of service? Answer is no. They are not separate person. In first example, subsidiary and holding company were separate persons, separate legal entity. In this example, it is branch or LO of head office. They are one and the same. And that's why it is not an export of service. So whether you see illustration 1 or illustration 2, answer remains same because I have just switched the slides, So this is remains same. Now take third example. ACS India Limited, ACS LLC. There is no holding subsidiary relationship, but they are part of same group. We can say sister concern. So is it export of service? Answer is yes, because both are separate person, separate entity. Illustration number 4 is exact replica of main example. So again, this is export of service. So to this extent, government has clarified that it is possible to do transaction with group companies. And just because we are doing transaction with group company or holding subsidiary company, please don't say it is not an export of service. Clarification on export duty. Friends, I will take you through section 54. Section 54 says that if goods which are exported is subject to export duty, then refund of ITC on such goods will not be given. So assume onion or sugar is in scarcity in India. There is a huge shortage of sugar. So government may put something called export duty on sugar. So if somebody is exporting sugar, they will have to pay export duty. In such situation, government will not even give you a refund on that sugar. Refund of ITC will not be given. Refund of IGST still will be given. This was a clear provision. Now, we must have heard about Supreme Court judgment in case of Wallace flour mills. A very landmark judgment. This judgment says nil rate of duty is also duty. If something has been exempted, it means it was taxable earlier and then it is exempted. So officers were taking a view that if in respect of goods, rate of export duty is nil or rate of duty is exempted, export duty has been exempted, then it is still rate of duty, and that's why the refund was denied. So principle of excise was applied here in GST, and refunds were getting denied. Now it is clarified that GST refund will be denied only for those goods which are actually subjected to export duty. That is, on which some export duty has to be paid at the time of export. आपने exempt कर दिया है या nil rate of duty लगा दिया है, that is not on duty for the purpose of this refund, and that's why GST refund cannot be denied. So again, a good clarification. Friends, I will touch upon some rate notifications. Now people may ask, ये rate notification में क्या देखना है? पहले rate was X, now it is Y. I will ask my client to charge Y now. What is it? What is the big dispute? But friends, in VAT as well as in GST, misclassification will be the area of dispute. सेल्स में ज्यादा मगजमारी नहीं है, आईटीसी भी मोर और लेस टू बी के आने के बाद स्ट्रीमलाइन हो जाएगा, हो चुका है. अब जो डिस्प्यूट है वो मिसक्लासिफिकेशन में बहुत ज्यादा आएगा. एंड नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स यू विल सी कितने डिस्प्यूट है क्लासिफिकेशन में. फर्स्ट अमेंडमेंट बहुत सिंपल है. On your left hand side you can see a position before amendment, right hand side position after amendment. So those who practice in income tax, they know that charitable trusts were, they need registration under section 12 AA, and now they need registration under, or I will say registration under 12 AB. So similar changes have been made in GST. In GST, if works contract service of repair, construction, reconstruction, etc. is provided on a building owned by charitable trust, then qua that works contract service, GST rate is 12%, not 18%. Concessional rate of 12%. Otherwise 18 आता था, 12 किया हुआ है. So because of this 12A का 12B in income tax, now here also in GST they have inserted word 12AB. कोई मेजर चेंज नहीं है, जहां 12A है वहां 12AB कर दिया है. ये एक बड़ा चेंज है. GST rate on temporary or permanent transfer of IPR. Friends, in VAT and service tax, there was a dispute on IPR. If it is temporary IPR, we were paying service tax. If it is permanent transfer of IPR, we were paying VAT. And we have something called deemed sales of goods. So, ये सब dispute were there in pre-GST regime. In post-GST regime, whether it is permanent transfer of IPR or temporary transfer of IPR, GST was payable. Further, there were two rates. So, if there is temporary permanent transfer of IPR in respect of goods, friends, IPR is goods. There are judgments in VAT era also that IPR is a goods, copyright is a goods, MEIS, SEIS script is a goods. So if there is temporary or permanent transfer of IPR other than IT software, then rate was 12%. But if IPR was transferred in respect of IT software, then rate was 18%. So copyrights of, say, musical program, it was covered under 12%. Copyrights of movie, 12%. But copyrights of software, 18%. This was the position before amendment. Now what government has said, अभी ये दोनों को combine कर दिया. Any transfer of IPR, software हो कि ना हो, rates are 18%. Parity लग दी. So now there is no confusion. But government has created more confusion. So this entry, what you can see on your screen, which I have highlighted now, similar entry was there even in case of goods. To avoid dispute whether IPR is a goods or service, or whether transfer of IPR is a goods or service, there was an entry in goods schedule as well as service schedule. Authorities have amended only service schedule. Goods schedule abhi bhi aisa pada hai. So it means if I say it is goods, then still I can charge 12%. Origin में अभी तक आया नहीं है, but this is a lacuna in law. Okay. Now इसका impact क्या होगा ये देखते हैं. This looks very simple. Now why this amendment? Let's understand why this amendment have been made. So friends, take an example. A producer of movie has got rights in movie. All rights belongs to producer. Producer transfers certain rights for certain period to entity called distributor. Because producer release नहीं करता, distributor movie release करता है. Distributor has got tie up with cinema hall owners. And what typically distributor does, they will temporarily transfer those rights to cinema owners so that they can broadcast the movie. And that's why it was charged 12% GST. Distributors were charging 12% GST. Government was saying no, this is distribution of motion picture, and for that they have HSN 999614 and GST rate will be 18%. So there is a dispute. Industry was saying 12%, department was saying 18%. Bangalore Commissioner, Karnataka Commissioner it is, has issued even a circular saying that you will have to pay 18% GST. So this matter went to GST Council. GST Council, instead of solving this issue, which is the right HSN, they said nothing doing. You are paying 12% because there is a entry for 12%. What we are doing, we are removing this entry. Now, whether you say it is transfer of rights or whether it's distribution, you will have to pay how much? 18%. But such amendment can have far-reaching consequences. You may have told your client earlier, "Sir, 12 taka lagana copyrights pe." Now you will have to go back and tell your client, "Sir, pay 18%." I will cover this 20th point first and then I will go to 18th. Both are linked. So for printing of service, again, there were two rates. Residuary rate, 18% on your screen. And there was one specific rate of 12%. So people were playing with this. Taxpayers used to claim that they are covered under 12% and they were paying 12%. Government was saying, no, you are covered under 18%, pay 18%. So what do you think government must have done this time? Government has removed this entry. So now there is only one entry for publishing, which is 18%. So what are the consequences now? So if you are just giving content to publisher, paper, ink, etc. are deployed by printer. आपने खाली कंटेंट दिया बुक प्रिंट करने के लिए, पेपर, इंक, बाकी सब प्रिंटर ने लगाया. In that situation, GST rate will be 18%. Earlier, it was under 12%. What if instead of getting into all these things, I give content, I give paper, ink चलो कोई भी लगा देता है, but paper main है मैं दे रहा हूँ. So then in that situation, it is not supply of printing service, but it is job work. And that job work was earlier also taxed 5%, even today it is taxed 5%. There is no change as far as job work is concerned. But if there is first situation where I am just giving content and other material is inputted by printer, then rate is increased from 12 to 18 with effect from 1st October 2021. Now friends, book तो exempt है, लेकिन book का input service का cost बढ़ा दिया है. This is that loss to publishers. Now this apparently looks easy. Now let's see consequences of this change to media field. मीडिया फील्ड में से क्या इंपैक्ट आएगा वो देखते हैं. So there are two HSN, 21 I'm covering. Printing and reproduction services of recorded media on a fee or contract basis. HSN 998912 12 taka. Or printing of picture 18%. There are two different rates. People were paying 12%. Now what has been done? 12% wala entry they have removed. And now entry belongs to only 18%. So now there is parity. आप कुछ भी printing कराओ, whether on print paper or on other media, you will have to pay 18% GST. Let me touch upon now point number 19. There's a term called CBU, contract bottling units. So in case of wine, liquor, etc., liquor manufacturer gives job work, on job work all this activity. Wine का bottle करना है, packing करना है, सब के लिए they give it to CBU. Now you know general job work rate is at 18%. But there is an entry which says job work in relation to food and food products is 5%. अगर मैं कोई job work करवाता हूं in relation to food or food products, entry was 5% GST. So this CBU were taking a stand that alcohol is also a food product, because term food or food product is not defined in GST, and there are various laws which says alcohol is also food. We have Food Safety Act, we have Prevention of Adulteration of Food Act, so many acts are there. Even dictionary meaning says liquor is a food. So the CBU were taking a stand that on their job work activity, they are required to pay only 5% GST. And there was an obvious reason, because alcohol as such is outside GST. तो जो आप जितना इनपुट पे टैक्स भरोगे उतना आपको लॉस होने वाला था. So principal were also not paying. They were saying, no, you pay only 5% GST. Now government is saying for all this CBU activity, you will have to pay 18% GST. What will happen? For my past, 1 October किसे तो मैं 18% लगा के पे कर दूंगा. What will happen to this 4.5 years? Council minute says that they will look into it. They will come out with some clarification. Till now, no clarification. So their fat hangs in balance right now. क्या होगा मालूम नहीं है. So all this clarification is going to create a lot of issue for taxpayer, because almost 5 years they have paid tax at wrong rate. Now if you ask them to pay tax at higher rate with interest, they will lose their profit. Okay, I'm now touch entry number 22, casino, race club, IPL. So अगर बड़े लोग हैं उनको अगर एंटरटेनमेंट के लिए जाना है तो they will go to casino or race club, IPL. These are all costly games. IPL for 4 hours they charge big amount. For ordinary people, they will go to say SL World or maybe some other theme park, water park. Now, if you see rate notification, there was a confusion. What could be the rate, 18 or 28? Take an example. There are many malls in Vileparla and Andheri. In almost all malls, there will be something called fun zone, game zone. In that game zone, there will be some rides, obviously for kids, and that there might be some big rides also, like there will be karting or something like that. So for these games, what will be applicable rate, 18 or 28? And there were amendments in 2018 and 2020 in this entry, but it was giving a confusion. Somebody was saying 18, somebody was paying 28. Now it has been clarified that only for casino, race club and IPL and events like IPL, so even football matches, etc., there will be 28% rate. Otherwise, rest all will come under 18%. So all your fun, all your game zone, all your fun and fair, everything will fall under 18%. Further, this clarification is retrospective. So from 2018 it will apply, and And believe me, nobody charges tax extra in this case. It is fixed price, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees. They don't charge tax extra. So it is good clarification. Industry will have, some sigh of relief in this case. 23 is nothing similar. जहां 12A था GST में, वहां 12AB भी डाल दिया इन्होंने. So जहां GST में exemption था, assume your trust is doing charitable activity, so it was exempted. So if you are registered under 12AB now, still you will be exempted. Not a big change here. So if you are a football lover, so there will be AFC Women's Asia Cup in 2022, and there was Women's World Cup in 2020, but it was rescheduled because of Corona. So whenever these two events will happen, these two events will not have any burden of GST. Even that tickets will not have burden of GST. They have been specifically exempted. Not a big change. This entry number 25. ये सालाना notification आता है. ये हर साल आ रहा है from 2018. So I will take you through background of this amendment. So assume you are exporter of goods. You are exporting goods either through sea or air, means by vessel or aircraft. Now, if you go into place of supply provisions, location will be location of recipient. Now, location of recipient will be exporter because they are getting service. And that's why it is not export of service. So goods are exported, no problem. But transportation related to good export of goods are not export of service. It is domestic service. So GST will apply. Now, if you see constitution, government cannot charge tax on export of goods. So to get rid of all these issues, every year, government is giving exemption for transportation of goods by air or vessel. There is no GST on this. IRFC, Indian Railway Finance Corporation. So all this railway asset, all these coaches, etc., signal, etc., is owned by IRFC. Till 30th September 2021, leasing service given by IRFC were exempt from tax. From 1st October, it has been removed from exemption list. It means it is taxed at 18%. You may feel this is bad move, abhi tax lag jayega. But actually this is good move. Because mera final product exempt hai और मेरे input services taxable है, तो there was a tax hit on IRFC. To get rid of this tax hit, now it has been made taxable. There are some related amendments we will see subsequently. National permit. So friends, if transporter want to take his truck out from Maharashtra to other state, they have to take something called national permit, NP. And for that, they are required to pay fees to RTO. Now, this payment is in the nature of fees and not tax. And that's why there will be reverse charge for such fees in the hands of transporter, if registered. Nobody was paying. In fact, nobody knows this also. So government has thought, koi pay nahi kar raha hai, let's exempt. So national permit fees from 1st October 2021 is an exemption list. There is no reverse charge on this. So, government is, spending big money on Skill India. There are a lot of activities going on to train people. So earlier there was exemption that for all these skill activities, if government is paying 100% of the cost, then service supplier, that is skill institutes, they will not charge any GST. Now amendments have been made in this entry, and it is clarified that if government bonds say 75% or more of the cost, then also it is outside the GST ambit. यानी गवर्नमेंट ने अगर 70% या उससे ज्यादा भी पे किया तो इस पे जीएसटी नहीं आएगा, 75 से नीचे रहेगा तो जीएसटी आएगा. Tamarind seeds. Tamarind, this was done at the request of Tamil Nadu state. Now you know what is tamarind? Imli, that is called tamarind. Uske seeds. So there was a dispute here, and Tamil Nadu was saying that you exempt this tamarind because it is very widely consumed in that state. So what has been done now? A new entry has been added, specifying 5% GST rate on tamarind seed meant for any use other than sowing. यानी खेती बाड़ी के लिए no GST, but other than that 5% GST. Now tell me as a supplier, how do I know buyer क्या करने वाला है? These end use restrictions were highly misused in VAT and will continue to be misused in GST. As a supplier, I will never come to know आप क्या करने वाले हो. But anyway, this is how Indian law operates. This says that if it is used for sowing purpose, no GST. Otherwise, charge 5% GST. In fact, government has said not only tamarind seed, any other seed, कोई भी seeds, अगर खेतीबाड़ी के लिए यूज कर रहे हो GST नहीं आएगा. Otherwise, it will be 5% GST, but this is prospective only from 1st October 2021. Friends, metal. If you see commodity cycle of metal का rates बहुत increase हुए हैं post corona, बहुत ज्यादा rates increase हो चुके हैं. And now government has also joined the bandwagon. Government has said, हम पीछे क्यों रह जावे? Why should we just charge 5%? Let us charge 18%. So for all these specified metals, rate has gone up from 1st October 2021, 5% to 18%. इसका रीजनिंग क्या है मैं आपको बाद में समझाऊंगा, बट रेट बढ़ चुके हैं. इन अ नॉट सो परफेक्ट इकोनॉमी कॉल्ड इंडिया, जहां आईटीसी का बेनिफिट पास ऑन नहीं होता है, प्रिज्यूम देयर विल बी इंक्रीज इन कॉस्ट टू बायर. इंडिया इज नॉट अ परफेक्ट इकोनॉमी कि आपको पूरा आईटीसी ट्रांसफर किया जाता है. देयर आर मेनी बॉटलनेक्स इन द सिस्टम, सो देयर विल बी इंक्रीज इन रेट. देयर इज अ आइटम कॉल्ड बायोडीजल. Now this biodiesel is blended with high speed diesel. बहुत थोड़ा सा अमाउंट यूज किया जाता है, ज्यादा यूज नहीं किया जाता. In HSD it is mixed. So earlier rate was 12%. This biodiesel is subject to GST. It is not outside GST. It is not petroleum products. पहले रेट 12 था, अभी घटा के 5% कर दिया. प्लास्टिक स्क्रैप, मेटल तो बढ़ाया ही बढ़ाया, प्लास्टिक के जो स्क्रैप्स हैं उसका रेट 5% से बढ़ा के 18% कर दिया. नाउ सोलर पावर, बायोगैस प्लांट, ये बहुत कॉस्टली प्लांट सेट होते हैं. दिस आर वेरी जाइजेंटिक प्लांट्स. फ्रॉम बिगिनिंग ऑल दिस प्लांट्स वर taxed at 5%. From 1st October 2021, rate has gone up from 5 to 12. इसके पीछे की स्टोरी भी है, स्टोरी हम देखते हैं, बट राइट नाउ आप समझिए इसका रेट 5 से बढ़ के 12% हो गया. Now there was a big dispute on solar plant. If I am buying solar plant, you can see here rate is 5%. Government has said you are not buying solar plant, you are buying goods plus service here. Agar if you are buying air condition, are you buying air condition or you are buying air condition plus installation service? My answer will be I am buying air condition. I am not going for an installation service. Installation service is ancillary. Government has taken a view in 2019 that when you are setting up solar plant, or biogas plant, it is composite supply of goods as well as service. And there was dispute. Government was saying service is the main intention, and buyers were saying, no, my intention is to avail solar plant as a whole. It's a goods for me. And why there was a dispute? Because plants were subject to 5% GST and service were subject to 18% GST. यही dispute था, और कोई dispute नहीं था. There was a lot of fights, many advance ruling, and it was a hodgepodge. कुछ कम से कम 8 से 10 advance ruling थी. कोई भी ruling दूसरे से मैच नहीं होती थी. There was a dispute. So government came out with a novel idea. Government has said, you are saying 5, we are saying 18. Mandavli kar lete hain. So from 1st January 2019, government has said that artificially we will presume that in case of all these plants, 70% is towards value of goods, supply of goods, and 30% is towards supply of service. And you will have to pay tax accordingly. So on 70%, I was paying 5%, and for 30%, I was paying 18%. Effectively, I was paying 8.9%. That is with effect from 1st January 2019. उसके पड़ेगा क्या है बाद में देखते हैं. बट ये अरेंजमेंट था. अभी रेट बढ़ गया, 5 से 12 हो गया. तो now I will be paying 12% of 70%. So my rates effective has gone up from 8.9 to 13.8. Now this plants runs into crores of rupees. इस पे इतना रेट बढ़ जाएगा तो जीएसटी का अमाउंट कितना बढ़ जाएगा? And these are all government on one hand says they want to promote solar energy, they want to promote biogas energy. On other hand, government is increasing rates. There's a this medicine called K-Truda. It is used for skin cancer. So till now rate was 12%. Now government has reduced rate from 12 to 5. Now let me explain you what is called retrofitment kits. If you have seen a scooter, which is driven by say Viklang people, or I will say Divyang people now. So they will have 3 wheels in their scooter. They will add one more wheel, so that they can balance their vehicle properly. That is called retrofitment kits used by disabled. So that additional wheel was subject to 28% GST till now. Now better sense has prevailed, and now it has come down to 5%. Cartons, boxes. And from VAT era, there was a dispute. There is something called corrugated cartons, something called non-corrugated cartons. और ये dispute चलता ही रहा था. And there was somebody was saying 18 pay करने का, 12 pay करने का. Now government has, there was an entry for 12% rate here. Government has increased rate for this entry from 12% to 18%. But it is from 1st October 2021. In my subsequent presentation, I will show you if government wants to give benefit, they can give. अगर उनकी इच्छा है तो कैसे बेनिफिट दिए जाते हैं, I will show you in some time. इसी चीज पे बहुत डिस्प्यूट था. फाइबर ड्रम्स corrugated है कि नॉन corrugated है या partially corrugated है. There is a dispute. If it is partially corrugated, then you can say it is corrugated. Somebody can say, so sorry sir, it is non corrugated also. It is glass half full. So people were paying 12%. Department was asking 18%. A big dispute. And some better senses prevailed here. And government has given some benefit, but we will discuss this subsequently. I will connect this once again. All printed materials. Rates increased from 12% to 18%. Even your calendars, rate has gone up from 12% to 18%. एडवर्टाइजमेंट मटेरियल, एवरीथिंग. सो प्रिंटिंग का खर्चा बढ़ गया आपका, बिकॉज प्रिंटिंग सर्विस का कॉस्ट भी बढ़ा दिया है और प्रिंटिंग जो मटेरियल है उसका भी कॉस्ट बढ़ा दिया, 18% कर दिया. So we have seen IRFC ka this thing. IRFC earlier it was exempt, now it is taxable 18%. Now what IRFC does? IRFC procures goods and they give it on rent to Indian Railway, basically leasing on Indian Railway. तो जो मेन उनके लोकोमोटिव्स हैं, इनका मेजर खर्चा लोकोमोटिव सिग्नल यूनिट्स पे जाता है. This was earlier taxed at 12%, now increased to 18%. And that's why उनका लीजिंग का कॉस्ट जो एग्जेम्प्ट था वो भी रेट बढ़ा के कर दिया 18%. So at least IRFC is concerned, there is no inverted duty structure. तो यहाँ 12 का 18 कर दिया, वहां भी 18 कर दिया. As far as IRFC is concerned, it is tax neutral. As far as Indian Railway is concerned, it will be taxable. But Indian Railway do charge GST on their various charges. So शायद they may be able to absorb. Even your ball pens, pencils, markers, fountain pens, 12% से 18% पे आ चुका है. So पूरी प्रिंटिंग इंडस्ट्री, स्टेशनरी इंडस्ट्री रेट मिनिमम 6% बढ़ रहे हैं. When you buy Pepsi or Coca-Cola or any aerated water, for that example, you are paying 40% GST. 28% GST, 12% सेस. So जब भी आप पेप्सी कोकोला पी रहे हो, you are contributing to the treasury of this nation. Now Coca-Cola and Pepsi were always complaining that you are asking us to pay 40%. There are some drinks, they are not fruit juice, they are not pure fruit juice, they are not pure fruit drinks. There is element of fruit drink or fruit juice as well as carbonated beverages. So take a case of Epi Fizz. अगर आपने कभी Epi Fizz पी रहेगी, you can make out इसमें carbonated water है, तो pure food drinks नहीं है. So they were complaining, why you are not charging same rate on such carbonated beverages which has some element of juice or food drink. So now government has increased their rate from 1st October 2021. Now they will also be subject to 40%. So there will be again a dispute because Supreme Court has said that Epi Fizz is not a carbonated beverage. Department is now saying no, you have to pay 20 or 40%. Again they will go to Supreme Court. Let's talk about mentha oil. ये mentha oil बहुत costly commodity है. It is used in FMCG, pharma, but इसका major use है गुटखा इंडस्ट्री में. जो गुटखा बनता है उसके अंदर mentha oil बहुत important commodity है और इसमें चोरी ही बहुत है. So what government has done, that nobody is paying tax on mentha oil. Let us shift these goods from forward charge to reverse charge. So now all this gutka company, whenever they will purchase, they will have to pay GST on reverse charge basis. This is again effective from 1st October 2021. पोटैटो इतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स के लिए अगर कोई राइस दिए जाएंगे तो उस राइस के ऊपर जीएसटी खाली 5% लगने वाला है. Now you know, COVID wave तो अभी भी चल रही है. It is not effectively over. And all these medicines were taxed heavily in past, 12% and 18%. So in June 2021, government has reduced, or for some item it has made GST rate nil. All these are all related to COVID, this COVID pandemic. So उन्होंने rate कम कर दिया था. But this reduction in rate was only up to 30th September 2021. Now government has extended its deadline from September to December. यानी ये सब commodity पे, medicines पे rate कम लगेगा. इसमें आपकी फेविपिराविर है, आपके 2DDGC है, बहुत सारे जो नॉर्मल यूज होते हैं उसको 5% रेट किया हुआ है. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. क्लाउड किचन, सेंट्रल किचन, ये वर्ड क्लाउड किचन 5 साल पहले कोई जानता नहीं था. थैंक्स टू जोमेटो, people knows what is cloud kitchen. So let's consider first a restaurant. Restaurant has kitchen and place to sit. This central kitchen or cloud kitchen, उसमें कोई बैठने की जगह नहीं है. ये पूरा बैक ऑफिस समझ लीजिए, ये बैक किचन है. So if you want to buy anything from cloud kitchen, they will deliver through Zomato or Swiggy. So question arises, what will be the applicable rate on food served by or delivered by cloud kitchen or central kitchen? Are they restaurant service? If they're restaurant service, then they will charge 5% without GST. Otherwise, they will fall under 18%. Government has clarified this cloud kitchen, central kitchen, even though they are not similar to restaurant, they will be taxed like restaurant, 5% GST. But of course, no ITC. So this cloud kitchen guys are very happy. But हमारी गवर्नमेंट किसी को अगर हैप्पी करेगी तो किसी को दुखी भी करनी चाहिए. किसको दुखी किया? आइसक्रीम पार्लर्स वाले. So now ice cream parlors they are screaming like anything. They are not screaming ice, they are screaming. And I don't understand how, means what goes in their mind. Nobody can understand for that matter. So ice cream parlor, are they supplying goods or they are supplying service? Okay. Don't think about cornetto or you know, ready-made ice cream, Sunday ice cream, which you get in a container or a con. Take example of say natural ice cream. So they have their outlets. You can go there. They will serve you a scoop of ice cream, whatever you want. They will play good music there. You can sit there for a good amount of time. Question arises, are they supplying service or they are supplying goods? So government has said that these ice cream parlors are not manufacturing ice cream. What they are doing is selling already manufactured ice cream. And if he sells something which is already manufactured, it is called trading. So in the eyes of government, these ice cream parlors are traders of ice cream. And that's why they are not restaurant. And therefore, they are supposed to pay 18% GST on ice cream and they can avail ITC. What industry was doing? Industry was saying that we are akin to restaurant. So we will be paying 5% GST. And that's why they have never claimed ITC since November 2017. Now government is saying in September 2021 that they are not restaurant. There will be a double torpedo for them, double hit. एक कलेक्ट 5% पे किया है, अब 18% पे करना पड़ेगा विथ इंटरेस्ट. 13% डिफरेंशियल बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट है. सेकेंडली, majority of them have never claimed ITC. We were always telling everyone कि आपका प्रोडक्ट exempt है तो भी ITC claim करके रिवर्स कर दो, because we don't know tomorrow what stand government will take. So claim and reverse, at least you are out of 16.4. Now these people have never claimed only. So all their ITC up to March 20 has gone. 16.4 लग चुका है. So differential tax pay करो, interest pay करो, ITC को भूल जाओ. That is the problem of now ice cream parlors. Now let me ask you a question. What about restaurant services, restaurant providing or restaurant selling ice creams? What will be their status? Whether the circular will apply? Answer is big no. This circular is applicable only for standalone ice cream parlors and not for others. The way in which it is drafted, it is very clear that it is only for ice cream parlors, not for resto cum ice cream parlors. Again, government want to promote education of disabled people, and that's why services provided by skill institutes under certain schemes for benefit of disabled people, there will be no GST. Satellite launch. Friends, we are a leader in launching satellites. In fact, it has become a big business. We have two organizations. One is called Antariksh, another is called NSIL, New Space India Limited. And most of the satellites are launched by Indian people, from India. So question was raised, when the satellites are launched for foreign country, is it export of goods or it is export of service, or it is not export of goods or not export of service? So very clearly said that satellite launch is service, and it will fall within the domain of export of service, and that's why there will not be any GST on such launching services. Toll plaza. So when we pay toll for using road, there is no GST on such toll charges. It is exempt. What if tolls people are saying that your vehicle is overloaded and for that you will have to pay overload charges? Will there be GST on that? Government has clarified that even for this overloading charges at toll plaza, there will not be any GST. Again, a very good clarification. This shows if government wants to give some benefit, they can anyway give. अगर देना है तो दे देंगे, और अपने लोग को तो 100% देंगे. So let's take a case of best buses. So all these buses are not owned by best. Best people, they float a tender. They invite tender from contractor, and contractor buys buses and give it on rent to best. Now there's a difference between hire and rent. There's something called right to use. And if you want to understand what is right to use, we will have to refer to BSNL judgment 2006. So in case of all these buses, contractor gives possession to best, BEST. BEST will decide when to run this bus, on which route, at what time, and it will be manned by best driver only. Is it giving on hire or it is renting? If it is giving on hire, then it is exempt. Then contractor should not charge GST. But if it is renting, it is subject to GST. And from facts, it was clear that it is subject to GST. People were charging. Now it is clarified that giving on hire includes renting. For all these years, there was a dispute. People went to high courts. It was never clarified. Now for the benefit of state transport undertaking and local authorities, it has been clarified that giving on hire includes renting of vehicle, and accordingly, there will not be any GST. This clarification is big daddy of all the disputes. अभी तक जितने dispute हुआ सबका बाप है ये. And this has got linkage even with metal. Metal में हमने check किया था, till now rate was 5%, now increased to 18%. Now suppose I want to carry out mining activity. Then I will have to take mining rights from State Mining Corporation. For availing those rights, I am required to pay royalty to State Mining Corporation. Now, State Mining Corporations are not the owner of these mines. They are just an agent of state government. So actually, I am dealing with state government. Now, question arises, when I am paying to state government, is it tax or is it fees? If it is tax, no reverse charge. If it is fees, then it is reverse charge. So since you are getting something in return, it is not in the nature of tax, it is in the nature of fees. So if it is in the nature of fees, I will have to pay reverse charge. So far, so good. What could be rate of tax? Surprisingly, for a period from 1st July 2017 to 31st December 2018, there was no specific entry in rate schedule. So either people were not paying tax, or people were saying that if I am mining, say, mineral, ABC mineral, and that ABC mineral is subject to 5% tax, then of course I will pay 5% RCM here because it will be parity for me. It will bring rate parity. From 1st January 2019, government has changed entry, and from 1st January 2019, for all these mining activities, royalty is subject to 18% GST. But there was no clarity up to December 2018. Now government is saying that it was their intention that all this activity is subject to 18% GST from the beginning. 5 साल के बाद हम बोल रहे हैं कि हमारा इंटेंशन ये था कि इसको तो हमें 18% GST फ्रॉम डे 1 कलेक्ट करना था. लिमिटेशन एक्ट इनको लगता नहीं क्या? कंडे से 3 साल के बाद मतलब ये सर पहले आना चाहिए था. But now they are very seamlessly they are clarifying that yes, it will be subject to 18% GST from beginning. People are not even paying 5%. And now if you are asking them to pay 18% with interest, and since it is under reverse charge, will they ever get ITC? That's another story. Whether reverse charge ITC will be hit by 16(4), another dispute. But this is the situation. Right now, government has said that from beginning, miners will have to pay 18% GST. गौरंग भाई, आपने फ्रेश फ्रूट खाए हैं? Okay. So now you will understand difference between fresh fruit and not so fresh fruit. So there is an entry called fresh fruit, fresh nuts, etc., and they are exempt from GST, nil GST. But if these fruits, nuts are frozen, dehydrated, so that they can survive longer, to preserve them, then government is saying these are not fresh fruits, and that's why you are not eligible for exemption. You will have to either pay 5% or 12% as the case may be. So only fresh को free है, बाकी अगर आपका fresh not so fresh हो गया तो आपको टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा. See the complications. Okay. Now I am sure all the members must have seen something called green coconut. There is something called brown coconut. घर में हम लोग brown coconut use करते हैं. And there is something called copra. Gaurang bhai, you know something called copra? Not cobra, huh? Copra.
नारियल का वो.
हाँ. So within the nariyal, what you have, if you dry it for a day, for a few days, then you may get copra. Now let's run a quiz. If brown coconut is subject to nil rate of tax, what will be rate of tax on copra? Government says 5%. And rightly so. Because when we read notifications, when we are going for exemption notification, we have to read it very conservatively. We have judgment from Supreme Court also in Dilip Kumar's case that if we are claiming exemption, onus is on us to prove that we are eligible. So just because coconut is exempt, copra will not be exempt. Copra will be subject to 5% GST. Pure henna powder, henna leaves, मेहंदी पेस्ट, ये सब पे 5% है. यहाँ कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं है. नेक्स्ट आइटम बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Scented sweet supari. So we can take example of Bilan supari. So government has clarified this sweet suparis to be subject to 18% GST. This elaichi or cardamom. This is these are known spices. Elaichi, cardamom. They are subject to 5% GST. Here there is no dispute. Now take a case of Rajinigandha. Rajinigandha is nothing but we can say it is coated elaichi. What will be rate on that? अगर इलायची 5% है तो कोटेड इलायची कितने पे होगा? 5? No, it is 18%. It is value-added product. This such type of elaichi will have cardamom seeds. There will be silver leaf, saffron, sweeteners, etc. And therefore they are different from elaichi or cardamom, and that's why they will fall under 18% GST. These are all clarifications given in circular. So GST practice करना है तो हमको ये सब भी मालूम पड़ना चाहिए. Otherwise, we may end up giving wrong advice to our client. I don't know what problem this alcohol industry is having with government. Now alcohol is outside GST, but to manufacture alcohol, various inputs are used, and this inputs, once process gets over, there will be something called scrap, garbage, and this garbage are sold. There is something called brewer spent gain, BSG. जो हम लोग different type के grain को जमा करते हैं वाइन बनाने के लिए, जो रेसिड्यू बचता है, that is called BSG or DDGS. So government has clarified that even on this BSG and DDGS, you will have to pay 5% GST. It is not exempt. फ्रेंड्स, अगर आपने कस्टम का टैरिफ शेड्यूल देखा है तो बहुत वाइड है, और हमारा गुड्स का जो शेड्यूल है, शेड्यूल नंबर 1 and 2, वो इतना डिटेल नहीं है. So many times it may so happen that you are searching some goods which is there in custom tariff act, but उसका डिस्क्रिप्शन यहाँ नहीं है. अब सिचुएशन में क्या करना? Can we presume it is there in custom tariff act, so it is also there in GST schedule? If you see notes, yes, notes in GST schedule or GST entry very clearly says that you may refer to custom tariff act. So there was a live example here. HSN 3006. In customs, there are so many goods which are falling under 3006. So many goods, A to K. Whereas in GST schedule, there were only few goods. So question arises, what will happen to other goods? Will they subject to same GST rate, or they will go under residuary head? So it is clarified that all these rates, all these commodities which are there in custom tariff act under HSN 3006, all will be considered here in GST schedule also, and they will be subject to 12% GST rate. So why we are covering this? This is a live example. अगर आपको कई बार कोई चीज ढूंढ रहे हो, आपको GST schedule में नहीं मिल रहा है, if you can find it from custom tariff act, link it to HSN code and apply same rate, because this has come from horse mouth. CBIC ने खुद बोला है कि हमने कम दिए हुए हैं, हमने खाली स्पेसिमेन दिया हुआ है. If you want detail, go to custom tariff act. So this clarification will help us in legal disputes in future. laboratory reagents. Government has clarified that all these laboratory reagents will also be subject to 12% GST. So bada nahi hai, we can skip because there are few more entries which we need to see in detail. Friend, there is something called entitlement certificate. So if you see notification number 3 of 2017 in IGST, government has prescribed lower rate for certain petroleum sector units, provided such goods are certified by DGH, Director General of Hydrocarbons. Because ये petroleum products GST में नहीं है, तो उसके inputs को if there will be high GST rate, it will be cost to ultimate buyers, ultimate customer. So government ने उसमें 5% rate लगाया था. And for that, if you want to procure such goods, you are required to procure something called EC, entitlement certificate from DGH. Now question arise हुआ कि for initial procurement we have procured EC from DGH. Now these goods are getting transferred from one branch to another branch. Distinct person में transfer हो रहा है. या goods are getting transferred from principal to job worker. Will there be a separate requirement of EC? Certificate नहीं लेना पड़ेगा. Government has clarified that as long as you can prove that these goods are same which is mentioned in original certificate, you need not go for another certificate. I will spend some more time on 59. Those who are following GST regularly, they will recall this. Way back in 2018, सबसे पहला GST में dispute ये था UPS बैटरी, इन्वर्टर बैटरी, और dispute ये था कि ये कंपोजिट सप्लाई है, मिक्स सप्लाई है, और उस पर GST रेट क्या आएगा. और AVO का एडवांस रूलिंग भी था जो अगेंस्ट था. उसके बाद बहुत रेडें हुई, DGGI ने बहुत रेड की और लोगों से बहुत टैक्स वसूल किया गया. अभी डिस्प्यूट ये था कि when you buy UPS inverter or inverter, generally they will also supply one extra battery, UPS battery. साथ में ही देते हैं. Now this UPS or inverter is subject to 18%. These batteries are subject to 28%. If you see concept of mixed supply, when two goods are supplied together for a single price, and if they are not falling under the concept of composite supply, then they are called mixed supply, will be taxed at higher rate, 28%. And there was a lot of confusion because of this advanced ruling. Now government has clarified something again in a novel manner. And I am reading out this. Question was asked, what will be applicable rate on external batteries sold along with UPS inverter? So we are supplying external batteries which are subject to 28% along with UPS or inverter. Government is saying it has been clarified that if UPS or inverter are and external batteries are sold on the same invoice, still their prices are separately known, and therefore they are two separately identifiable items. So government has taken this, or government has given a new direction now. So even if I am supplying for a single price, but if there is separate price mentioned on invoice, then this is not a mixed supply. It may qualify for separate supply. आज तक ऐसा बताया नहीं गया था. And with this clarification, the concept of mixed supply is diluted totally. People will play with this. So I will supply everything together, but in my invoice I will mention separate price. And because of this clarification, now I can charge separate rate on all the supplies. So let's see whether government will stand by this clarification, or in future they will say no, we want to remove this clarification. Solar plant, हमने solar plant का पहले चेक कर बताया था आपको कि rate has increased from 5 to 12, and we have also seen that from 1st January 2019, 70% towards goods, 30% towards service. It is composite supply, but charged separately. What about July 17 to December 18? Again, there was a dispute. So now government has said that even for this period, July 17 to December 18, we are giving you benefit of 70-30. You want, take this benefit, pay tax, tata bye bye. What are the learnings from this? जो इंडस्ट्री लड़ती है उसको बेनिफिट मिलता है, जो नहीं लड़ती वो टैक्स भर के चला जाता है. So now, even for past matter, benefits have been extended. ये भी हमने आगे कवर किया है, बट वापस हम इसको टच करेंगे. We have seen corrugated, non-corrugated में एक स्टोरी चल रही थी. Corrugated का अलग रेट था, non-corrugated का अलग रेट था. Fiber drums दोनों में आते हैं. So somebody were paying 12, somebody were paying 18. There was a utter chaos. Government has said on this fiber drums, it is falling under corrugated and you are required to pay 18% GST. But because of confusion in market, आपने 12 भरा तो भी ठीक है, 18 भरा तो भी ठीक है, हम मान लेंगे आपने टैक्स भर दिया है. There will not be any refund, there will not be any recovery. Up to 30th September 2021, आपने 12% भरा है तो भी ठीक है, 18 भरा है तो भी ठीक है. 12 भर दिया तो हम आपको एक्स्ट्रा 6 मांगेंगे नहीं, 18 भरा तो 6 वापस करेंगे नहीं. मिच्छा में दुगड़ा. Go ahead. A unique case. And that's why I was saying कि गवर्नमेंट को कुछ बेनिफिट देना है तो गवर्नमेंट सब कुछ छोड़ सकती है, नहीं देना है तो कुछ नहीं दे सकती है. 61 and 60 is a live example. In 60, benefits are given even for past period. In 61, government has said, we will not make any recovery, we will not give you refund. We will close down the cases. This footwear and textile sector, this sector, is facing inverted duty structure from beginning. So if value of ready-made garment or footwear is less than 1,000 rupees, तो रेट है 5%, अदरवाइज रेट है 12%. लेकिन इनके जो इनपुट सर्विसेज हैं ये 12 से 18 के बीच में आते हैं और इनका आउटपुट है 5% में. एंड दिस इंडस्ट्री इज सेइंग दिस फ्रॉम बिगिनिंग. अब गवर्नमेंट ने रिफंड तो अलाउ कर दिया टेक्सटाइल में इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी का, लेकिन खाली गुड्स का दे रहे हैं, सर्विस का मिल ही नहीं रहा है. एंड आफ्टर वीकेसी जजमेंट जो एडवर्स आया है टैक्सपेयर के अगेंस्ट है, डिपार्टमेंट देगी भी नहीं. So this industry were facing a lot of challenge. It has been said in press release that they are deferring decision on this two-eyed sector till January 2022. So their rate may increase from 5% to 12% from January 22. Zomato and Swiggy. This change will come from 1st January 2022. अभी से नहीं आ रहा है. Now restaurants are subject to 5% GST without ITC. But many restaurants are either not paying or they are not disclosing proper value of supply. So government thought कि इतने सारे रेस्टोरेंट को हम पकड़ नहीं सकते. It is easier for us to catch hold of Zomato and Swiggy. So from January 2022, there will be some fundamental changes in taxation of restaurant industry. When you are ordering online food through these aggregators will collect GST on food and they will pay to government. Otherwise, it is good move because there will be, more revenue collection. Same thing is going to happen even in transportation sector. Friends, if you remember, there is section called section 9(5) of CGST Act and 5(5) of IGST Act. जब गवर्नमेंट के पास पावर है कि गवर्नमेंट कैन ask e-commerce aggregator to pay the tax. So this power has been used for Zomato, Swiggy. This power is also used for Redbus. Now, you know, Redbus is nothing but aggregator. Big name in transportation sector nowadays. So here also, when you are booking any ticket through Redbus, Redbus will collect GST. Ultimate supplier will not collect GST, and Redbus will pay to the government. One innovative thought. It is there in press release. अभी तक इसमें कोई circular notification आया नहीं है, and they might be thinking of first changing their portal and then they may come out with circular. Consider a case. I have got 2 units, one in Maharashtra, one in Gujarat. In Maharashtra, I have paid something extra. मैंने 1 लाख रुपए एक्स्ट्रा भर दिया कैश जीएसटी में. गुजरात में टैक्स पे करने को आ रहा है, भरने के लिए पैसा नहीं है. What should I do right now? एक ऑप्शन है मेरे पास. I can apply for refund in Maharashtra, and in Gujarat I will have to pay in cash. So this is creating a lot of paperwork for department as well as taxpayer. So now it is thought that balance in CGST and IGST case ledger can be transferred amongst distinct person. Group concern नहीं, sister concern नहीं, distinct person. पैन नंबर सेम होना चाहिए. तो आपका जो कैश का बैलेंस है सीजीएसटी और आईजीएसटी का, एसजीएसटी का नहीं ट्रांसफर होगा. यू कैन ट्रांसफर. सो दिस विल हेल्प इन कैश मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम, वर्किंग कैपिटल मैनेजमेंट में अच्छा रहेगा. एंड देयर विल बी अवॉइडेंस ऑफ पेपर वर्क. दिस हैज नॉट बीन स्टार्टेड येट. मे बी इन अ मंथ और 2 दिस विल स्टार्ट. इंडिया में 1976 में टैक्स आया था, प्रोफेशन टैक्स. इट वाज फॉर अ शॉर्टर पीरियड. अभी भी चल रहा है. और 2017 में टैक्स आया है कॉम्पेंसेशन सेस. टॉबैको प्रोडक्ट्स पे है, कार पे है, कार्बोनेटेड ड्रिंक्स पे है. When GST was implemented, we were told that this cess will be there only for 5 years, but we were knowing that once implemented, it will never go. Now our fear is getting true. Now we have been told that this cess will continue till 2026. आगे के बाद आगे देखते हैं. People are very unhappy. 36(4) है, 5% ही मिलना, चेक करना पड़ता है. इसके ऊपर क्रेडिट अलाउड नहीं है. पहले 20% था, फिर 10 किया, 5 किया. अब क्या करेंगे? 0. अब 0. Very soon, when section 16(2)(a) will be notified, you can claim only those ITC which is appearing in your GSTR 2A 2B. इसके ऊपर कोई भी डेल्टा नहीं मिलेगा. अभी 5% का डेल्टा है, वो भी चला जाएगा. सो GSTR 1 कहां से आएगा? आपका 3B में पूरा डिटेल्स भर के ही आ जाएगा. खाली आपको रिवर्सल का बनाना है, बाकी अपने आप ही आने वाला है. बिकॉज GSTR 1 से डेटा ऑटोमेटेड होते हैं. GSTR 3B में सेल्स का डिटेल्स अपने आप आ गया. ITC का डिटेल्स अपने आप तो 2B से आ जाएगा. आपको खाली करना क्या है? कुछ रिवर्सल करना है तो करिए, कुछ ब्लॉक करना है तो करिए, टैक्स भरिए, घर पे जाइए. लेट फीस. हाउ मेनी पीपल हैव पेड लेट फीस फॉर GSTR 1 टिल नाउ? किसी ने नहीं भरा, बट प्रोविजन तो है ना. अब गवर्नमेंट को समझ में आया कि लेट फीस का बिजनेस बहुत अच्छा है, तो अगली बार से या हो सकता है इसी बार से whatever late fees for GSTR 1 they will collect with GSTR 3B. यहां भी लेट फीस सबसे कलेक्ट कर लेंगे, उसके बाद ही आप GSTR 3B भर पाओगे. लास्ट, पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स. जीएसटी के बाहर है, सालों साल बाहर रहेगा. डोंट एक्सपेक्ट कभी भी जीएसटी के अंदर आ सकता है. सो दिस आर दी, देयर आर 1 or 2 मोर थिंग्स, बट बहुत लंबा टाइम जाएगा इसलिए मैं छोड़ रहा हूं. और इसमें कुछ ज्यादा एयरक्राफ्ट ऐसा कोई ज्यादा काम लोग अपने पास रहता नहीं है. If somebody has anything on aircraft, we can discuss. Leasing में कुछ बड़ा changes किया है इन्होंने. But other than this, this were the changes which were, discussed at 25th GST Council meeting, and notifications or circular are given for this. Some changes are really good, some are not so good, but that's how life works. Gaurang bhai, do we have another time or it's over?
We can take the questions if any members have any questions.
Fine. So we will not touch upon judgments, but we will definitely see, definitely try to reply members' query. So friends, if you have any query, I'll be happy to answer.
Hello.
Yes, Kishore sir. Yes, Kishore sir, we can hear you.
As far as that IT written for job workers, those who send the principals to job workers.
Okay.
ITC4.
As you said, no, many have not filed, or most of them have not filed. So what is the consequence if we have not yet filed?
सर देखिए, consequences क्या होंगे वो डिपार्टमेंट डिसाइड करता है. If department want to challenge, they can say that there is a requirement that you are required to bring back your goods, your machineries, within a period of 1 year or a 3 year. You have not complied with this. So since you have not complied with 143, we may, again I am saying we may reject your job work movement. As of now, there is no late fees for filing ITC 04.
Okay.
Better, instead of thinking about what consequences may come, let us comply.
From beginning, whatever is pending, we can file now. Right?
Yeah, and there was some exemption from July 17 to March 2019.
Okay.
There were exemptions also.
Okay.
So if you can check your, this thing, and if you're eligible for exemption, you may need not file till 2019 March. Thereafter, you will have to file.
Okay.
Anything on e-way bill?
Amish bhai, e-way bill માં શું?
e-way bill માં બીજું કઈ છે, કઈ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ તમે કઈ ડિસ્કસ કરી શકો છો? હવે આ 1 આપણે ફાઇલ નહીં કરીએ, 3B નહીં કરીએ તો લોક થઈ જશે ને?
Yes sir, e-way bill generation block થઈ જશે. 2 મહિના પછી થઈ જ રહ્યું છે ને હમણાં તો. After 2 months
MB sometimes we are filed and MB બંધ થઈ જાય તો એનું કઈ?
But then you can go to site and immediately unblock કરી શકો છો. You can unblock immediately. There is a provision which is totally automatic. Go to e-way bill site and unblock yourself.
કોને?
Okay.
પૂછી જો.
Okay, Jignesh bhai, your presentation was good. I like what
Thank you,
easily explained किया है सब आपने. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Gaurang bhai, any further query?
Let's just wait a couple of minutes. Just a second. There's something in. On chat box, there's a question whether export sales in accounts should match with export sales mentioned in shipping bill.
It will never match. Friends, it will never match, because what happens when you export, custom people, they use their own rate, and their rates are not changing on a daily basis. Custom rates are fixed for 15 days. There is notification after every 15 days, and they apply that rate for next 15 days. Whereas in books of accounts, we recognize revenue as per AS 11 RBI rate, which keeps on changing. And that's why if you see your GSTR 9C, there is a column for difference in exchange rate. So if there is a difference, you need not worry.
There's another question. Do client has to pay with interest in correct IGST?
No. Section 77 of CGST, section 19 of IGST very clearly says if you paid wrong type of tax, when you are paying again right of tax, you need not pay any interest. But yes, take refund of wrong tax paid in wrong. Yeah, you need not pay any interest.
I guess That's it for the day. Thank you so much, sir. It's always pleasure to hear from you.
Thank you.
And I would like to extend my vote of thanks for sharing this valuable time, insights, and knowledge on the recent amendments in the GST. In detail, explain all the different 70 amendments and like from starting from Aadhaar authentication to changes in frequency of ITC 04. In detail, you have explained the scope of intermediary with the wrongful availment of ITC and not utilizing and or availing, and export of service with regards to the clarification which the government has given for export of service, and a very in-depth change of rates of various goods and services and its implication, whether favorable or not favorable for the industry. And still certain clarification which the government has not yet given, certain gray areas which they have left even after issuing this clarification. In detail you have explained. So it was a great session. I am sure many members who have participated have gained a good insight. I would request if it's okay with you to please share your presentation with us.
Of course. I will give it tomorrow, sir. Definitely, I will mail you.
Thank you. On behalf of Andheri West Study Circle, I would once again like to thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank to all the participants.